Greetings everyone, welcome to Archie's Sonic issue 81 and part 3 of the Sonic Adventure saga. To recap what happened last time, Amy transformed herself into her modern form, and because there might be unforeseen side effects, she joined the expedition to the Hidden City, which they eventually found under a mountain. Meanwhile, Knuckles learned about Eggman's attack on the floating island and goes after him to recover the Master Emerald Shards. And the Chaotix were captured by the inhabitants of the nearby mainland. We were also introduced to Big the Cat and E-102 Gamma. However, the former won't play a part until much later in the saga. With that said, let's begin today's issue. We begin with Amy reflecting on what's happened to her recently while staring at this glass window. Get it? Anyway, she's called back to the group as they casually walk around the streets of Station Square while the inhabitants just stare at them. And rightfully so. It's not everyday anthropomorphic animals just waltz around the place like vacationing tourists. Soon the police arrive and surround our heroes. Tensions ease slightly when the lieutenant of the squad recognizes Nate Morgan as an old friend. And I see the police get their SWAT gear from Light Labs, the finest in super fighting technology. While slightly weirded out by walking talking animals, the lieutenant is reasonable enough to take Sally's warning about Eggman seriously. I already like him more than the Haven Brotherhood, I can tell you that. He'll go on to inform the mayor about the situation. He also sends them to the Station Square Hotel so they can rest up for the evening. The next morning, they meet Mayor Bulliani. Wait, Mayor Bulliani? Seriously? He says there hasn't been any trouble from Eggman or the like around here. He does take the time to personally escort our group around the city, saying how their ancestors made the city with an artificial sky and man-made bodies of water and so on and so forth. Sonic and Tails bail partway through the tour. Guess they're not fascinated by the inner workings of the city. Neither is Amy apparently, as sometime later, we see her wandering the streets all by herself, now that she has an older body. What does she do with this new freedom? Why, go shopping, of course. Goodbye, Amy. We'll see you at the start of Story 3. Elsewhere, Tails impresses the people below with his flying skills. Sonic plans to look for some excitement and finds it by serenading some human girls at the hotel. Yes, this is real. We end the Sonic portion of the tale with the mayor explaining their self-sufficient situation to Sally and wish to establish relations with the outside world thanks to the Freedom Fighters' arrival. Story 2 begins with Eggman watching Chaos absorbing the stolen Master Emerald Shards. It works at first until Chaos stops growing. After analyzing some of the fragments, he discovers that debris from the Chaos Chamber got mixed in with the shards. This is why you should have taken the entire Master Emerald, Eggman. He assigns his newly created E-series to hunt down more Emerald Shards, as well as getting a certain frog. We head over to Knuckles. While on Eggman's trail, he spots some excavated ruins below, so he decides to check them out and notes that they remind him of the ruins on his island. Knuckles spots what looks like Emerald Shards, but according to him, they're Chaos Emeralds. Note that for later. He wonders why someone would leave perfectly good emeralds behind. It doesn't matter now. Knuckles invokes the Finders Keepers law by stuffing them into his glove. Knuckles feels like he's being watched, and then spots something shocking, I guess. We don't know what that something is because we have to continue that lame Chaotix are prisoners by the cat people subplot. Yes, I'm calling it lame because all that happens is they're being escorted to a palace of some sort. One member of the cat party decides to scout ahead to meet with the queen. Only when she arrives, that party member turns out to be the queen. Shocking. She will question the prisoners to determine if they are a threat. Let's move on to Story 3. Oh, hi Amy. Good to see you again. Hope you had fun shopping because something serious is about to happen. Before we get to that, you might be wondering, how can Amy afford all this stuff when our heroes don't know Station Square's currency? Well, the answer is quite simple. Oh, look over there! A bird's being shot at by a robot! I'm serious. A bird is being shot at by a robot. Amy and the nearby crowd see this too. The bird crashes into Amy, and she ultimately blames the robot for hurting the bird and tries to keep it safe. A valiant effort, Amy, but as you noted here, this is one of Eggman's robots. And yes, she calls him Eggman here instead of Robotnik, as the comic tends to do around this time. Well, we soon see a possible side effect of her recent transformation. A hammer suddenly appearing in her hand. Amy doesn't question it as she immediately puts it to use. A second robot shows up, yes, two robots, and it isn't caught off guard by Amy's new hammer. The first robot recovers, and both haul Amy away, with the bird following them, for some reason. No, scratch that. The reason will be explained in issue 82's third story. Once again, Sonic's story is all about setup. This time it was about establishing Station Square itself, how it was an artificial environment that was built long ago, showing off some familiar things from the games, and to introduce the inhabitants. I think the idea is to show that humans are a nicer bunch than overlanders. Sure, they are shocked and suspicious about these strange visitors, but once things settle, we're shown that they're reasonable people, willing to listen to some concerns, interested in establishing relations with the outside world, and finding the visitors fascinating. Tails and Sonic breaking off from the group to fly a plane, and hanging out at the hotel respectively. I think it's a nod to some of their early cutscenes in their stories. The reason I'm saying this is, the adaptation does not showcase any levels from the game, and Tails never crashes the plane. What else can I say about the story except, we see Amy on her own, setting the stage for story 3. I do want to point out something art-wise that's bugged me. James Fry's the penciler for the Sonic material so far, and thus, I blame him for this. At the end where Sally and the mayor shake hands, if you look at the panel to the left, you can see Sonic leaving the train with the group, except he's supposed to be serenading human girls at the hotel at this time. Also, Antoine's missing. I think we can put 2 and 2 together. This isn't the only time Antoine got shafted by the artist. Last issue, when the Freedom Fighters had to ride a minecart to Station Square, Tails is with them. Only, he's supposed to be flying the plane. And don't tell me the tornado landed so they can swap pilots. I don't buy it. Unless Antoine has shape-shifting powers we're not privy to, this is another major screw-up. The second story is mostly fine. On Eggman's front, we learn why Chaos cannot achieve perfect form yet, and we're introduced to the remaining E-Series robots. I said last time in the big story that there would be a contradiction involving Gamma and Froggy. Well, here it is. Eggman in this story orders the E-Series robots to go after Froggy, who's possessed by Chaos's tail. However, in the big story, Gamma shows up moments after the Chaos piece enters Froggy. So much for the tracking just the Chaos piece theory, and you know who wrote both this story and the big one, so there's a whoopsie there. The Knuckles stuff is fine, discovering ruins that remind him of the ones on his island. Kinda like how the Mystic Ruins were once Echidna territory, and that Angel Island was a part of it in the game, huh? Too bad we don't learn any more in this issue, thanks to the Chaotic Cat People subplot. I don't care about it, period. Oh, there's that one party member that became the queen once she puts on the robes. Yeah, fascinating. At least the premise about clothing would become interesting when we see this tribe again way down the line. Our third story with Amy adapts her opening game cutscene of how she was shopping until she encounters Birdie and the robot chasing it, Zero. The hammer makes its debut. Like I said earlier, it may be a side effect of Amy's wish. I'm glad she doesn't become an instant expert with it. Yeah, she gets one lucky shot, but the robots adapt and capture her right away. That's right, the comic's not bothering with the whole Twinkle Park and Speed Highway stuff. It's straight to the kidnapping. Though it's odd to see 2 Zero robots in this story. Before you say anything, I found some interesting behind the scenes stuff I'll save for issue 84. Birdie going after Amy. It didn't have to do that, but it does for the sake of plot. I'm surprised one of the Zero bots doesn't just grab it with its free hand. Some of you are probably thinking, ugh, this setup is too long. Get to the main Sonic Adventure material already. Well, I'm happy to report that we have one more issue before we get to the main event. And to reveal something now, it'll feature Sonic's first fight with Chaos. I'll see you next time for issue 82. Here, Sonic desperately wants to distance himself from his real middle name of Maurice. I don't blame him.